Well, welcome to Notable Approvals. I am attorney Amanda Shaffer. Apologize for the brief delay. I was told I can connect to Instagram. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, it's a little delayed on Instagram, I see. I apologize for that. So that's very confusing. Okay, anyone watching on Instagram, if you are watching, I am getting a delay here and hearing it. So I'm going to sign out off of Instagram. Um, yeah, this is going to get me very confused. I'm like talking to myself. But let's get back to Facebook and YouTube. And hopefully, if you're on Instagram, you're able to make your way here. If not, I will be posting it on Instagram when I am done. That seemed to be a major fail my first time trying to stream from the streaming software. Well, that's what happens when you're live, I guess. Okay, so apologize for that. Before we get to our case today, don't forget to like us and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you're watching. And if you know someone who will find this helpful, go ahead, hit that share button, that save button, put your friend's name in the comments so that they can see it as well. Okay, now we can get to our case today. So today's case is about a client who's a native and citizen of Canada. Her and her fiance, who lives in New York County or Manhattan, they first met around September 2019. They were friends at first and hit it off. And after that, they really started seeing each other, even though she lives up in Toronto and he lives here. They would see each other pretty much every month until the heart of the pandemic. So they'd switch off. She'd come down here to see him. He'd go up there to see her, but they would stay for like a month or two at a time. I believe that both of them work remotely. But of course, because of the 3 months, because when you're Canadian, you don't need a visa to enter the US, but you're only allowed to stay for 90 days. And vice versa. So they had to go back and forth. And they did this until really the pandemic kind of closed the borders and everything, shut everything down. And then they resumed this that they then resumed seeing each other. Basically, like I said, maybe they'd go a month without seeing each other, but pretty much they would see each other a lot. Now, for a fiancé visa or a K-1 visa, the requirements are that you are able and willing to get married. So if you've been married before, you're divorced, but you're free to wed under the law, and that you intend to marry your fiance, within 90 days of your fiance entering the country on a K-1. The other part of the requirement is that you have met at least one time in person in the 2 years preceding the filing of the petition. There are a few exceptions not relevant to this case, so I'm not going to get into. So in this case, we knew that the parties were dating for a while and had been in this relationship for a while, and had been seeing, going back and forth to the countries to see each other. Now, they don't get any passport stamps. A lot of places don't stamp anymore. So we couldn't submit that evidence. But we went a little light on the initial evidence. We did have the intent to letters from both petitioner and beneficiary saying, yes, we're able to and willing to get married within 90 days of entry. And then they described all of their in-person meetings. So they said, these dates I went to New York, and on this date he came here, and they even put a few details. They weren't long, but they had some details in them. And then we had 2 boarding passes, one for the petitioner visiting the beneficiary, and then she actually flew back with the petitioner after that, and then stayed here for a while. But we only had her return flight. So it would have been better, of course, to have a little bit more evidence when filing, but we did think they had detailed statements. They had the boarding passes. like, worst comes to worst, we get the request for evidence. And that's exactly what happened in October. We got a request for evidence. And I will say we did send the reply about a few weeks ago. And less than a month later, it was approved. So I'm very happy about that. But I had no doubt. And that's because we made sure this time, really, to show them that there's just zero doubt they met in person. So they actually had 5 in-person visits that I counted, and, we had a new statements from each of them, now explaining in more detail, like, they went to like, she came down here to celebrate Thanksgiving and Hanukkah and New Year's, and he went up there to celebrate Canadian Thanksgiving. Apologize to my Canadians, I'm not sure when that is. Um, and then we also included flight itineraries for every single trip for at least one of them. Uh, they were invited to an e-wedding, so or not an e-wedding. It was an evite for a wedding. It was an in-person wedding. Um, I actually kind of had an e-wedding because I got married during COVID, so I had a lot of people on the Zoom. This was not that. They went to either a family or friend, invited them to a wedding, it showed both their names, and then we had pictures from the wedding. And we also had pictures that someone had posted on social media. I always say when people ask me about pictures and stuff that it's actually a good thing to go on social media where, especially if someone else tagged you, because usually it has the date, usually it has the place, and if you're tagged in there, then it's clear who it is. And that was the case here. So we printed those out. And we also had some online chat between the two about their in-person visit. And then we also had, they did get engaged in person and then posted about it. So we printed that out as well. So we had plenty of evidence, even though flight itineraries or boarding passes both work, even though we had no passport stamps, wasn't an issue because we were able to show they were in the same place at the same time, which is what you have to show. So yeah, today is a nice, short, and easy one. Again, if I apologize to my Instagram viewers, I have to find out what happened there. That was quite strange. But this one, I like this case because it was nice and I mean, relatively speaking, nice and quick. Fiance visas are taking a little longer right now, but it's a good example of you can take a risk sometimes and be a little lighter on the evidence, but it's not surprising when you get a request for evidence. And the good news is it was very quick once we responded because we gave them exactly what we wanted. So I wasn't surprised about that. So the next step for this client is she's now going to wait for the case to be transferred to the National Visa Center. She's going to fill out the non-immigrant visa application, the civil documents, go to her interview at the embassy, get her K-1, enter the U.S. All goes as planned. She marries her U.S. citizen fiance within 90 days of entry, and then we will apply for her green card. So that is all for today. Again, apologize to my Instagram viewers if you're watching this on repeat. Don't forget to like us and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you are watching. And if you know someone who may find this helpful or you have found it helpful, click that share button, that save, give me some comments, some love, and we will be back soon with another notable approval. Thanks for watching and have a great day.